Chapter 30, Progress. I don't die, Ink. I bent to the side. No, you're doing good, Bree said. You can do it. I shook my helm. I was doing good. Don't get nervous. Thank you, I'll try that. Don't think about how it's going to sound. I glanced longingly at the datapad on the desk, but Breeze put her hand on it. No. I took a deep vent and focused on my spark, listening to it pulsing, feeling its life. Breeze's encouraging thoughts were distracting, but I tried to ignore them and focus inward. I was getting better at meditating with other mecha around, but this time, it didn't work. You can re-stop, mentally cheering me on. Does it annoy you? I nodded. Okay, I'll stop. Thank you. So. I took a deep vent. I can still only say short things, sometimes. Sometimes I could. Breeze nodded. That was better. And you were too close to me to be meditating. I shrugged, then looked at the datapad again. No, Breeze said. I turned my screen off and took a click to try and meditate before speaking again. I'm getting better at me. Slag it. Cool, Breeze said. It was never quite meditating, not unless I was completely alone, but I could get close. But you're still scared of big words. I shrugged. But, Breeze said. You shouldn't be. Big words are just a bunch of little words stuck together. Don't think about how they sound. Just think about what you want to communicate to me and say it. Next time, not one stutter, alright. No guarantees. I didn't move, but I did try meditating again. Then Searchlight came into my range and broke my concentration. The door opened. Hey, Searchlight said. Oh, did I interrupt you? Sorry. You're fine, Bree said. Good, Searchlight said. Wave, we need to go. Right. Master Yakatron. I got up and followed Searchlight down the hall. This is getting kind of ridiculous, Searchlight said. He started teaching you new stuff while I'm still supposed to be meditating, hasn't he? I shrugged. It's totally not fair. Is he just trying to make me mad? He wants you to let you earn to. Well, maybe if I wasn't bored out of my processor I'd be able to. And how is it that you can meditate when you can hear all of us thinking in your helm? Of course, are you out of range of me when you sit across the room? I nodded. So not fair. So not fair. It wasn't fair that I had to have everyone's thoughts in my helm in the first place. I don't want to quit, Searchlight said. But I don't think he's really trying to teach me anything. Just because you're better behaved. I shook my helm. What's that supposed to mean? He did want to teach Searchlight. He just wanted to teach him some patience and humility before he taught him anything else. He was also testing Searchlight, trying to see if he would stick it out. He wasn't too pleased with the speed of his progress, but he was impressed by his tenacity. He nodded when we entered the room. Good Orn. Welcome, both of you. We are here to learn, Master Yakatron, we said. I stuttered a couple of times, so we weren't really in sync. You may begin by meditating, Yakatron said. Searchlight and I sat on opposite sides of the room, and we meditated, or at least, I did. I was pretty sure Searchlight wasn't, he might be trying, but probably not very hard. After about 10 breams, Yakatron had me get up. He was a good teacher, but I was an even better learner. Conceptually, I understood exactly what he wanted me to do, exactly how he wanted me to move. I was getting really good at staying balanced too, and in control. It was natural. It felt right. Searchlight gave up halfway through the door and got to his pids. Yakatron noticed him immediately, and wasn't pleased. He wasn't angry, just a little disappointed. Master Yakatron. Yakatron turned to look at him. Yes, Searchlight. Is there a reason you aren't meditating? Yes, Searchlight said. This is ridiculous. If you aren't going to teach me anything, why am I here? Are you questioning my decisions? Yakatron asked. Yes, Searchlight said. I'm going to be Cortex's behind Soundwave and learning things. How are we supposed to be sparring partners if you're teaching him things I haven't even started to learn yet? Yakatron frowned. I believe part of our bargain was that you would do what I asked. I have been, Searchlight said. I can meditate fine. You are not ready to move on. But. You still aren't taking this seriously, Yakatron said. Maybe if you taught me something that was actually useful, I'd take it seriously. Are you in control, Searchlight? Searchlight took a deep vent and let it out in a huff. What? You're angry. This puts you at a disadvantage. When we're angry, we do and say things that we later regret. Meditation is about learning to control yourself. You have no hope of controlling your outward circumstances if you can't control yourself. Now, please return to. But. This is your trial, Searchlight. This may be the most difficult part for you. You must learn that patience isn't just waiting. You will wait whether or not you are patient, but. Patience isn't waiting. This mech is completely insane. Patience is the ability to focus on the present and trust that the future you hope for will be there when you have earned it. What? Searchlight said. That doesn't make sense. This fledgling. Yakatron raised an optic ridge. Then perhaps you can sit down and contemplate it for a few breams before you return to meditating. Searchlight bent to the side, but sat back down. I think what he said was just a fancier way of saying waiting for things. I hate waiting for things. Why am I even here? This is never going to go anywhere. Master Yakatron turned his attention back to me. This state of things won't last forever. We're close to a threshold. Either he'll break through or give up. I hope he doesn't give up. He's not really cut out for fighting, but if one is determined enough, one can accomplish many difficult things. I wasn't sure at this point either. If Searchlight dropped out, though, I'd drop out too. Sometimes I wished we could switch places. I'd much rather sit in the corner and meditate the whole time. I didn't expect to need to fight a lot in the future. The next Orn, during class, we were working in pairs, and for the first time we're actually trying to fight each other. It was mostly a balance exercise where we tried to knock each other over. I was paired with Ratchet. He wasn't really engaged, though, and was definitely not happy about this whole exercise, so neither of us were really trying. Yakatron walked around the room, giving counsel and encouragement. I knocked Ratchet off balance, and he fell. Cheater, he thought. It's not really possible to beat you. I shrugged, and reached out a hand to help him up. He took it, and we started over. I suppose you can hear that crazy teacher thinking too. That's probably why you're so ahead of the class. I nodded. Yakatron wasn't paying attention to us. Move your left feet forward a little. What? Why you aren't BA lanced? Ratchet narrowed his optics, but did as I said. I gave him a few more tips about improving his posture. He glared at me, but followed my instructions, and then we started again. He was surprised at how much easier it was to keep his balance now. Several paces away from us, Breeze knocked Searchlight over. She smiled, pleased with herself. Searchlight glared at her and got back to his pids. Then we changed partners. I was with another student. Searchlight was with Ratchet. I only half paid attention to my own fight, listening instead to Ratchet and Searchlight. Searchlight was still upset that Breeze had been able to beat him, and he was determined not to let Ratchet do the same. Ratchet, for his part, was pretty much always ready for a contest of wills. After about a bream, and just before Yucatron was going to ask us to switch again, Ratchet knocked Searchlight over. Searchlight hit the ground hard, shocked. Ratchet was a tiny bit shocked too. My sparring partner nearly sent me to the ground too, but though I was distracted, I still managed to anticipate him and fend him off. After class, Searchlight stormed off without waiting for us. Sore loser, Ratchet muttered as he, Breeze, and I followed the rest of the class out the door. Be sympathetic, Breeze said. Put yourself in his place. He was so excited about this, and he isn't very good at it. That would be awful, ugh, and now he's mad at me. I shook my helm. He'd get over it pretty quickly. Probably. After classes were over, I went to my room to say hi to Ravage and did homework while I waited for Searchlight to show up so we could go meet with Master Yucatron. But he didn't show up. After a bream or so, I went to his room, but neither he nor Ratchet were there. Great. Part of me wanted to go to Master Yucatron by myself and hope Searchlight showed up, but instead, I went looking for him. I found him in the Energon Hall, sitting in a corner, sulking. Searchlight. Sulking. He saw me as I approached. You should just go by yourself, he said. I shook my helm. He looked up at me. Go on. It's not like it'll make a difference if I go or not. He'll just have me sitting off to the side of the room, meditating the whole time. Might as well do that here. I tilted my helm forward slightly. He glared at me. What? Just leave me alone. I didn't move. He was always on my case when I started feeling sorry for myself. I wasn't going to let him get away with this. He vented a sigh. I don't know how you managed to look so sarcastic without a face. It's kind of impressive, you know? I shrugged. Okay, Searchlight got up. We walked to Master Yucatron's classroom. You're late, Yucatron said. Late students are my very least favorite kind. We apologize, Searchlight said. Well, I apologize. It was my fault. Yucatron nodded. Apology accepted. Things started out as expected. Master Yucatron had us start by meditating, and then took me aside to work with me while Searchlight kept meditating. Or, not meditating, as the case might be. Yucatron didn't think he was trying very hard. About halfway through, Searchlight's patience seemed to run out and he stood again. Yucatron turned to look at him. Searchlight, please continue meditating until I ask you to stop. I can't, Searchlight said. Yucatron frowned. I'm not even as good as the mecha who are in the normal class. I'm probably the worst in the class. He is giving up, isn't he? That's too bad. Ah, well, I don't always make it easy for them. He did do pretty badly in class this Orn. I thought I saw something in him, though, that first time. I'm not always right, but... Well. Searchlight said. Is he going to say anything, or just stand there? If you would listen to me and put some time and effort toward meditating properly, then you would be better than you are right now. Searchlight snorted. I don't want to learn this anyway, he said, and turned to walk out the door. Yucatron narrowed his optics as he watched Searchlight reach the threshold. I wouldn't have pegged you as a quitter, Searchlight. Searchlight stopped in the doorway. If I didn't believe you could become skilled at this, then I wouldn't have agreed to tutor you. Searchlight shuttered his optics. I should leave, but I shouldn't, I can't, I am not a quitter. What the pit am I doing? He turned around. Okay, he said. But I'm not meditating anymore. I'm done with that. Yucatron tilted his helm to the side. And now we've come to the breaking point. Let's see if we can figure out what's blocking him. He doesn't seem to understand. He was trying to make me mad, wasn't he? He was trying to push me over the edge. And now he calls me back. Why? The first thing you need to learn to control is yourself. Do you believe me? Yucatron asked. When I tell you that meditating is essential? Searchlight mulled that over in his processor for a few Ostroskins. I don't know, he said. An honest answer, I think Yucatron thought. Very good. What if I just can't meditate? Does that mean I can't learn to fight? He can meditate. I don't think the problem is whether you can meditate. Yucatron said. You may need to look deeper than that. He's not focused. He doesn't want to start with the basics. He wants skills without the cost of practice. He has no patience. Why does nothing this mech says make sense? What does he want me to look deeper at? I'm not some sort of spiritualist, I just want to learn how to fight. I don't need all this slag about sparks and the universe and patience and looking deeper. That's not going to help me. He just likes to add all this other stuff on top of what he's trying to teach us. First you tell me that I need to meditate, now you want me to do something else. Look deeper. What does that mean? They stared at each other. He's quite stubborn, and he wants this very badly, but he doesn't listen, and he doesn't trust me. Then again, I haven't been doing much to gain his trust, maybe I've been going about this the wrong way. Well. Searchlight said. Well, Yucatron replied. It isn't as if I haven't taught students like him before. I just have to figure out exactly what's stopping him. It's not just impatience. Maybe he really doesn't understand my answers to his questions. Do you even know what it means to look deeper? Searchlight said. Or did you just say that? Yucatron smiled. I see. He doesn't like the mysticism. Oh well. Did you just call my bluff, Sparkling? Yeah, Searchlight said. I think I did. Do you just make this stuff up to confuse Mecha, or what? Yucatron shook his helm, but didn't stop smiling. No, I'm dead serious all the time. He is just making it up. Phony, Searchlight said. You have no regard for authority, do you? Yucatron was even more amused. Searchlight wasn't really angry anymore either, just thrown off by Yucatron's reaction to his accusation. I don't get it. Yucatron glanced at me. Soundwave's probably even more confused than Searchlight. No, not really. Searchlight has been completely honest with me. I should probably return the favor. You're right that it's a bit of an act. Yucatron said. No Mecha solemn as my classroom persona could live as long as I have. So you are a phony. I'm a real Circuitsu teacher. You just like making things really confusing for your students. It's fun, Yukatron said. Most students just accept it, or think I'm a little crazy and overdramatic. And then usually some student or other comes along and kicks me out of my rut. I apologize, Searchlight. I see if I want to train you, I'll have to do it a little differently. So can I skip the meditating? No, Yukatron said. And that's not all that's bothering you, is it? No, Searchlight said. I also don't understand all the stuff you say about sparks and feeling the universe and looking deeper. Well, I didn't just make it up, Yukatron said. And it's not absolutely essential, but it's relevant all the same. And it's interesting. It's processor-numbingly boring. You have a very concrete way of thinking about things. I what? You, never mind. This isn't working. He's fun to mess with, though I shouldn't do that. I have to show him the stars. That's helped some students in the past. I think we've done enough of this for now. But I would like you to meet me on the upper roof after the sun goes down, about a hour before lights out. Can you do that? Why? Searchlight said. Yukatron raised an optic ridge. It will be easier to show you. Okay, Searchlight said. More universe nonsense, probably. Now, Yukatron said. As much as I've enjoyed our conversation, and as enlightening as it's been, you really ought to show me a little more respect. I understand that you haven't seen much in me that you feel merits respect, but while I may have a bit of a melodramatic streak, I am not a phony as you have designated me. I lived through the Quintesson Wars, and since then I've been teaching. I've had forns and forns and forns of students. Each one different. Each one challenging in their own way. If you want me to teach you, you need to learn more than just fighting. Searchlight wanted to be defiant. But he saw something in Yukatron's optics that stopped him and reminded him who he was talking to. Yes, Master Yukatron. Thank you, Yukatron said. We went to Searchlight's room to hang out with Ratchet and Breeze, and to do homework. Then, a hour before lights out, we left to go up to the roof. Master Yukatron was waiting for us there, meditating. The light from the city made it so the stars weren't quite as bright or numerous as they could have been, but they were still pretty cool. I glanced over at the edge of the building, remembering that off-cycle when the bullies had dangled Ratchet over that railing. That had been a really, really long time ago, hadn't it? More than a quarter of a forn. Things were very different now. Searchlight stood, watching Master Yukatron, wondering if he ought to say something. But Yukatron knew we were here. He unlined his optics and looked up at us. Well, I see you've made it. Welcome, students. We greeted him and he had us both sit. Look up at the stars, Yukatron said. Searchlight raised an optic ridge. I knew this was going to be more universe lag. Yukatron noticed his expression. I just want to demonstrate something. Really, you have to trust me a little. Do you want to learn or not? Searchlight bit back a snarky response and looked up at the stars. Yay. Stars. They've always been there, they always will be. I looked up at the stars, but Yukatron didn't, he was paying attention to Searchlight. Pretend you're among the stars. See how fast the sky is, and how small we are. We are among the stars. Searchlight really looked then. Looking at the stars made some mecha feel small, but it made Searchlight feel enormous. Do you feel anything when you look up at the stars? Wonder, I guess, Searchlight said. I feel like I can do anything. Like reality is so big. Kind of makes me want to go out there, you know? This is dumb. What kind of answer are you looking for? Most mecha feel something when they look out at the stars. Yukatron said. In a similar way, you will feel something when you truly reach a state of meditation. It may be difficult for him to grasp the concept, cognitively because it's not really that much different from sitting and doing absolutely nothing. But there is a difference, and it gets more distinct as you practice. There is a feeling. When he looks up at the stars, he wants to go out there with them. He wants to reach them. When you meditate, you want to reach yourself. Of course, explaining that won't help. Turn off your sensory receptors and find that feeling. Searchlight wasn't convinced, but he tried. He shut off his optics and audios and tried to feel the same way he felt when looking up at the stars. Yukatron shook his helm. He's going to have to lay aside his skepticism if he wants to make any progress, he said to me. Soundwave, on the other hand, has amazing potential. He understands me exactly, all the time, and understanding is more than half the battle. Then again, I don't think he cares about this as much as Searchlight does. There's something I'd like to teach you. Actually, I said. We should wait for him to catch up. Yukatron considered that. That might be a while. I shrugged. You are a very loyal friend, Yukatron noted. I have one of those wandering around somewhere. He spent a moment thinking about his past. I had picked up bits and pieces of his story over the time he taught us. He didn't usually spend much time thinking about it. There were things he didn't like to remember about the Quintesson Wars. He went back to thinking about teaching us. Perhaps you're right. Searchlight has been feeling left out, hasn't he? I suppose I ought to have been paying more attention to him. But once again, I don't know how long that will take. We could practice more. I suggested. Yukatron frowned. Yes, but I have other things to do. The two of you can practice on your own time, though. I'm sure you have homework and plenty to keep you busy, but if you have some spare time, I'll even give you the code to my classroom and you can practice in there. I already had the code to his classroom. I nodded anyway. Searchlight got it. I noticed before Yukatron did, and Searchlight himself didn't even notice until after that. As soon as he noticed though, his audios and optics came back online, and he looked up. Well. Yukatron said. That was cool. I think I figured it out. Not particularly exciting, but still kind of cool. So. Now, you can meditate, Yukatron said. You should practice that for a while, and maybe in a Decairn, we'll move on to something else. You're kidding me. A whole Decairn. Yukatron looked at him. Searchlight sighed. Okay. I'm sorry. At least I know he will eventually start teaching me. In the meantime, I don't think it would be a bad idea for you two to practice the things we're learning in class on your own. He doesn't trust me yet, but I'll bet he does trust Soundwave. Yukatron dismissed us, and we all went back into the building. The next morn, Yukatron gave me the code to get into his classroom. But I liked the roof better. Over the next Decairn, Searchlight and I went up to the roof to practice almost every orn. Between that, meeting with Yukatron, working with Breeze, and trying to keep up with school, we were all pretty busy. That was a good thing, though. Searchlight all but forgot that he wanted to do something awesome this term. He was not very good at Circuitsu. It wasn't that he was particularly uncoordinated, or that he wasn't trying. He had a hard time focusing though, and he wasn't really good at taking correction either. A lot of the time, he didn't know what he was doing right or wrong. But he was determined, and he did get a little better. He was getting better at meditating too, though he still didn't like it, and he still thought we did far too much of it. But, as Yucatron had promised, after a decade he started teaching us together. He was a little disappointed, but not surprised by Searchlight's lack of focus and balance. He wasn't discouraged, though, any more than Searchlight was. He had confidence in his ability to teach, especially since Searchlight was listening to him now and making some progress. As Decairn's past, Searchlight slowly improved until he could beat Breeze and Ratchet when we were in third drawer, and then until he was better than most of the other students in the class. He wasn't better than me, though. I slammed Searchlight to the ground for maybe the 20th time and held him there for an astrosecond. Then I stood and offered a hand to help him up. He took my hand and stood with a sigh. If you couldn't read minds, I'd totally be able to beat you. I shook my helm. Guess we'll never really know, Searchlight said. I'll just have to get good enough to beat you anyway. Good luck with that. Searchlight got into a fighting stance. Left P back. He slid his P back a little, scowling. Stop. He stopped. Forward a little. I can't feel a difference. There was a difference. I could feel it. He shifted a little again. Now he was balanced. Do on T-break stance, I said and approached him. He watched me warily. I shoved him, and he pushed back and stayed upright. I tried a few more times, but he fended me off. Move while you're P forward. He did so. I shoved him again, and he tipped over and stumbled away, falling out of his stance. I looked at him. He glared back, defiant for an astrosecond. Then he shrugged. Okay, you win. There's a difference. I shifted into a stance. He attacked. In half a bream, I had him on the ground again. The last rays of sunlight disappeared, leaving us in the gloom of dusk. I really had homework I needed to do. And a test to study for. But I liked watching the stars come out, so I didn't mind staying up here for another half a drawer or so. Searchlight got up and we tried again. With Yucatron, he was mostly doing balancing exercises, which was helping him a lot. And what helped even more was that he could put the techniques he was learning into practice when he fought me. He could see that it was helping. We kept going until stars dotted the sky, and then I called a halt. 5 more breams, Searchlight said. I shook my helm. Come on. I walked toward the door. Come on, 5 breams isn't that long. I sighed and turned around. Fine. Next Dorn, we can't ice. How come? I was going to have a processor ache. The teachers were asked to let me take tests on my own, but some of them weren't too happy about it. And my test next Dorn wasn't technically a test, just a really long pop quiz. He hadn't told the class about it yet, so I was pretty sure he wasn't going to make arrangements for me to take it on my own. At least this sort of thing didn't happen too often anymore. I just walked back to where he was. Because. That's not an answer. I shrugged. Okay, fine. You will tell me when we're done, though. He got into a fighting stance. Right pedo out a little. Seriously. Okay, whatever. He shifted. Re-Edie. So ready. I attacked. The next Dorn, after I was done with classes and training with Yucatron, I retreated to my room instead of going to Searchlight's. Ravage was there, waiting for me. I sat down at my desk and Ravage leapt up onto my shoulders, without saying anything. I leaned back slightly. I ought to use this as an excuse to catch up on all my homework, but maybe I'd give it half a drawer first. The test had been in my second to last class, so my processor ache wasn't as bad as it had been, but it was still definitely there. I vented deeply and turned my screen off. Are you okay? Ravage asked. Yes, I said. I even managed not to stutter. Breeze would be so proud. Even as I thought that, she came into my range. I sighed again and sat up, turning my screen on again. The door was unlocked, so she opened it and stepped in. Searchlight mentioned you weren't going to train with him this Orn, she said. I thought it might be a good Orn to work on talking. I shook my helm. Are you sure? Very sure. I said. Are you okay? I too okay a test, I said. But, he's supposed to take tests by himself. I shrugged. I'm okay. Just tired. Okay, Bree said. Well, come join us if you're feeling up to it later. If some teacher made you take a test, you should complain to Cable or Reach. I nodded. She left. I needed to do homework. I really did. I waited for her to get out of my range. Fortunately, the students in the rooms near mine were all gone. Sometimes that happened, especially right after classes. I got up. What are you doing? Ravage wondered as I sat down in the middle of the floor. I had to shift a little because Ravage's weight on my shoulders threw off my balance. Then I meditated. I figured if I spent a few breams like this, it would help me focus on my homework. It was kind of tricky with Ravage sending me questioning thoughts, but I managed. It was too nice, though, and I ended up sitting there for almost 20 breams. Not only did it help with my focus, my processor ache retreated much more quickly than it should have. It was still there, but only a minor distraction now. Ravage, who'd almost dozed off, started as I stood up and went back to the desk. Are you okay? He asked again. I'm okay, I said. I was just thinking. Ravage cocked his helm to the side. Thinking about what? He asked. It's called meditating, I said. It's different. You think about your spa arc. Oh, Ravage said. That seems really boring. Searchlight would agree with him about that. I got a datapad out of subspace and started working on my homework. When I was finished, there was still some time before lights out, so I got Ravage and wandered over to Searchlight's room. He, Breeze, and Ratchet were there, sitting on the floor and playing a board game. Ravage was sorely tempted to jump down and knock over all the pieces, but I put a hand on one of his pids to let him know that wasn't an option. Ah. Hi, Wave, Searchlight said. I nodded and sat in his desk chair to watch. I wondered how they'd convince Ratchet to join them. He wasn't very engaged in playing, though. He kept thinking about a homework assignment he hadn't completed yet. He also had a datapad open to a file that explained in long, overcomplicated detail the rules of the game, which he was trying to read as they played. Breeze was currently winning, though Searchlight was very close. Ratchet wasn't doing as well, but then again, he was distracted. It was Searchlight's turn. He moved. Ravage climbed down from my shoulders onto the desk, watching with only mild interest and wondering if he could jump before I could stop him. Probably not. The game was nearly over. Maybe Searchlight would let Ravage play with the pieces when they were finished. It was Breeze's turn. She studied the board, trying to figure out what she could do to win. Despite the fact that she currently had more points, if Searchlight played it right, he could end the game in the next few moves and jump ahead of her. One of Ratchet's pieces was in his way, though, so she figured she was pretty safe moving the piece she wanted to. She shouldn't have been worried. Searchlight didn't even see the move she was afraid he would make. It was Ratchet's turn. He was reading the rules. Ratch, move, Searchlight said. Your turn. Oh, Ratchet looked at the board again, then reached for a piece. I saw what he was going to do, but didn't say anything. He hesitated a moment, but didn't really think his move through before he made it. He moved the piece that had been blocking Searchlight from winning? No. Don't. Bree stared at him, horrified. Why would he do that? Ratchet glanced at her. What is her problem? He looked back at the board. Oh, Pit, that was a stupid move, he's going to win now. They both looked at Searchlight. He was studying the board in a contemplative way, oblivious to the tension in the room. He doesn't see it. Maybe he won't notice. Searchlight looked up. What are they staring at? What? Breeze leaned back, trying to look nonchalant. Ratchet just scowled. Nothing, he glanced down at the board again. Just move a piece. Just move a piece. Would you move already? They're worried about something, Searchlight looked down. What? Ratchet moved that piece so a slow smile spread across his faceplate. No. Breeze thought. He saw it. Knew. Ugh. If that femme hadn't made a big deal about it, he wouldn't even have noticed. Ratchet shot a glare in Breeze's direction. Searchlight reached for his piece. And then Ravage landed on the board with a crash, scattering pieces and startling all three of them. They jumped back. Eep. Ack. What? You slagging cat. Ravage sat up, curled his tail around his hindpids, and started grooming the plating on one of his front legs. The others stared at him in shock. I laughed. The atmosphere in the room suddenly changed. Ratchet cringed, Breeze's doorwing shot up, and chills went down Searchlight's back plating. Oops. Searchlight slowly turned to look at me, wide-eyed. That was the creepiest thing I have ever heard in my life. Do that again, he said quietly. I looked down. That was slagging awesome, Searchlight said. Laugh again. No. Ratchet got to his pids. If I ever hear that sound again, it'll be too soon. That's going to give me nightmares. Breeze took in a deep vent and lowered her door wings again. That was interesting, I don't think I've ever heard you laugh before, Soundwave. Sorry, I said. That was so cool. Searchlight thought. You could totally scare Mecha with that, he said. Can you imagine hearing that over your shoulder in like a dark alleyway or something? Ratchet tensed. I shook my helm. What? Searchlight said. It's not that bad. Really, Wave, that was cool. Can you imagine how much fun it would be to go scare Grey Charter or someone? Fun for Yowu. I said. I would feel their fear. I wouldn't feel it as strongly as they would, but I'd still feel it, the way I'd felt Ratchet's. They'd better not be talking about sneaking up on me, Ratchet thought. We not. I said. Good. Breeze was a little lost. It gets kind of confusing when I'm not sure who he's talking to. Okay. You're no fun, you know. Searchlight looked down at Ravage. Ravage, did you have to do that? Yes, Ravage leapt at Ratchet, who managed to successfully duck out of the way. Ravage was surprised, but dexterously landed his leap and turned around for a second try. Stop it. Ratchet said as Ravage jumped at him again. Well, in any case, Searchlight said. I totally won. Technically, Bree said. I was still in the lead. I sat back in Searchlight's chair and pulled out a datapad, glad the topic of conversation had changed. It was almost lights out, so before too long Breeze and Ravage and I left to go to our own rooms. I lay on my berth for a while, looking up at the ceiling, thinking. I didn't laugh very often. In fact, the last time I'd done, so in anyone's hearing, I had been much younger. Crescent had locked me in my room for a Decairn and told me if I ever made that noise again, she'd kick me out to wander the streets. I hope Searchlight forgot about the whole scaring Mecha thing. I was in the business of trying not to freak everyone out, and that was difficult enough already.